Hey, Westside, Dan Sutherland here. I am really enjoying this sabbatical time away. I haven't shaved, I haven't showered. Well, actually, I have showered, but I've been resting and relaxing, and I am feeling rejuvenated. And speaking of rejuvenated, you're going to have a blast today. The teaching bench at Westside is so deep. It is amazing. Today, you're going to hear from Pastor Jason Morris. He is officially our pastor of innovation and internet, but really and truly, he's the pastor of crazy. That's who he is. If you think Rob has high energy, buckle up, baby. Jason is going to blow your mind. God bless you, church. Let's give a Westside welcome to Jason Morris.
Hey guys, I don't know how I got that name, Pastor of Crazy, man. I am way saner than I used to be. Seriously, when I was a kid, man, I would do the craziest stuff. One of my favorite pastimes, I was one of those kids you did not want to get bored, okay, as a parent. I would figure out all these creative ways of teasing my sisters. Like, we had two younger sisters. The youngest one, Joanne, just to give you an example, 2 years old, right? I convinced her that she was so small that the toilet would swallow her, which my parents really appreciated when it came time to potty train. Let me just tell you. I would think of all kinds of creative ways to just really get at my sisters, and inevitably I would get in trouble, right? And this was the way that our parents handled it. My mom would stand me in front of my sister when we got done arguing, and she made us quote Ephesians 4:32 to each other in King James. And I said it so often, I still remember it to this day. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Ephesians 4:32. Now, you know how I know that? Because I said it a lot. And I grew up with that concept of what kindness really is from that experience. I grew up thinking that kindness was basically not instigating, avoiding conflict, and being nice. And so when the pastoral team, when Dan Sutherland asked me, to teach on kindness, I felt like, man, I am just kind of handicapped in this area. I don't know if this is really good. I don't know if I could teach this with integrity. And Dan Sutherland, he told me, he said, well, Jason, I don't get it. He said, you're like the kindest pastor I know. And I'm like, well, either you don't know a lot of pastors, which probably isn't true because he's like the godfather of the Christian mafia. He knows everybody, right? Or you don't see me at home, right? Which is probably more the case. Because, here you don't see what goes on in my heart. Maria's the good cop, I'm the bad cop. There's just this far, lots of times from just letting the Incredible Hulk out at home, right? Because at work, it's easy, I can be kind there because it's my job as innovation technology pastor to look at things that aren't working right, and thinking of better ways to make them more efficient, and then just throwing some technology on top of it and fixing it, execute, rinse, repeat, everybody's happy, right? But at home, it doesn't work like that. Nobody wants to be my project. Nobody wants me tweaking on the relationship and just trying to make things better. Everybody feels discouraged. Everybody feels like they're not good enough. It doesn't work at home. And Dan thought, this will be a good journey for you then, Jason. I was like, great. So what I'm going to share with you is my kindness journey over the past month. Good, bad, and ugly. And just so that you don't think that this is like one big public therapy session of Jason Morris here, I really do feel like the struggles that I've been going through and the things that God is teaching me, I think that you're probably in the same boat too. So first, let's look at the scripture. Galatians 5:22. It's in your notes there. Let's just say it all together. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Awesome, awesome stuff. When I first read this verse, And I thought, man, I've only got a month to pull this off. I need a shortcut to kindness. And we do these shortcut things all the time. Over the past month, we've learned all these shortcuts that we tend to do when it comes to getting the real fruit of the Spirit. Instead of love, we'll try the shortcut of admiration or status. Instead of joy, we try the shortcut of happiness. We try the shortcut of control. Instead of patience, we'll try the shortcut of the illusion of control and schedule making. Instead of peace, we'll try the shortcut of security and conflict avoidance. And when it came to kindness for me, I really felt like I could pull it off a little bit faster by using the shortcut of random niceness. But what I found was what our hearts really ache for is real love, real joy, real peace, real patience, and real kindness. Really what we're wanting is the real fruit of the Spirit of Christ. We're wanting Him. That's what we're wanting. But I didn't go there first. I went for randomactsofkindness.org. You know, there's a whole website for that. There's a 501c3 for all of us people who are clearly just a little bit deficient in this area, a little bit handicapped. And they gave me all kinds of ideas to try. And let me save you a lot of grief. They don't work at home. Here's the problem. Random acts of kindness at home, the reason why they don't work is because they're random. Your family never knows if you're going to be nice right now or not. And I was like, boom, 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 boom. And it was just, I'm sure, let me just give you an example. You know, we've been talking a lot about squeeze and snap back, squeeze and snap back. Well, I feel like that as far as my heart was concerned, I wasn't even this good, all right? I was more like this, you know, this balloon. I'd be like, okay, kids, tonight we're going to do whatever you want to do. Look, squeeze, look how good of a dad I am. Look how kind I am. Oh, you want to go to the pool? Snap back. I don't feel like going to the pool. Why don't we watch TV? You can watch whatever you want. Look how kind I am. Oh, you want to watch Frozen again? Let it go, let it go. Snap back. I am sure that my kids, my wife, just thought I was going bipolar or something, right? And that's one of the problems of random acts of kindness, because they're random. Another problem is that they're just acts. You're acting. And eventually the show is over. I remember one particular day where I thought that I was being particularly kind all day long. I was doing great. I'm hitting the couch, wanting to chill a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, this is my time to relax. And up comes Brianna, whose middle name is Joy. It really fits her. She was like, I'm so excited. I'm like, what are you so excited about? She says, tomorrow I get to have my braces on, and I get to have those purple things, you know? And she's like all excited. And the thing I'm thinking about at this moment is, how much those things cost. You know, and I'm rolling my eyes, right, while she's telling me all these things. And then she stops right there, stops me in my tracks and says, what do you look at me like that for? Why so mean? I was like, oh, I did it again. And I just really got discouraged with it. The next morning, I'm in the gym, right? I'm on the bench press, just pressing out my frustration. It's just like, I can't do this. This isn't right. I'll never get this, and I've only got 2 more weeks, you know? And I was just sitting there, and I was thinking, you know what? I got to call Dan. I got to tell him I can't do this. And then I realized he's on sabbatical. I can't call Dan. I'm going to have to call Jesus. And so, no joke, I'm sitting right there on the bench, and I'm like staring at the floor. I got my eyes open, you know, people at the Y are doing laps around the gym and everything, you know, and I'm trying to not act like I'm praying, but like inside, I'm just like, God, you have got to fix this in me. You have got to show me the path to kindness. I can't do this. I can't. I'm only halfway through, and 2 weeks, and I've just blown it time after time after time. You got to help me. You got to help me, show me the way to kindness. And out of the blue, one of those people that was doing laps around the gym, this guy totally color coordinated. his tan shoes with his tan pants, his tan suspenders that matched his tan hearing aid, out of the blue, walks up to me, while I'm praying, puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Don't be so hard on yourself, son. It'll all come out in the wash." And then he keeps on walking. And I'm like, it was like God was hitting me with this. Look, it's not about striving. It's about yielding. And it brought me back to the series Big Idea. I heard it all month. You would have thought I would have remembered it. If you're going in your notes, Jesus wants to produce his character in me. My role is to abide. His role is to produce. And I had forgotten what the third word in that Galatians verse that we just looked at, because it's not the gadget of the Spirit. It's not the widget of the Spirit. It's not something that I can manufacture. My whole world is ones and zeros, but the fruit isn't binary. You can't just turn supernatural kindness on and off. It just doesn't work that way. And I realized too that the fruit of the Spirit, look at that word Spirit, it's got a capital S on it. I was sitting there trying to do it with the little s spirit of Jesus, or of Jason, the little s spirit of Jason. When what really needed to happen was fruit from the capital S, Spirit of Christ. That capital character, that big character is what we're talking about, this whole series. That's what I needed. Because when he's the one who does it, he's the one who's going to get the credit. And I realized it's not about me. It's about him. And supernatural kindness, producing kindness, listen to this, is less about self-improvement and more about falling in love with God who is kind to me, and then joining him in his secret missions of kindness that he's constantly doing with others. So let's take a look at this word kindness. Kindness in this verse comes from the Greek word krestas. I want you to say this with me, all right? Krestas. Now say it like a Klingon. Krestas. Oh, you guys are good. Yes. Now, why do I teach you this Greek word? Here's why. We don't have an English word for this. When they were just translating the Bible into English, they had these whole discussions on how to translate this particular word. Sometimes it comes out as kindness, but sometimes it's translated as easy, better, useful, good, as well as kind, because we don't even have a concept for this in kindness. So I want to explain this idea of krestas to you a little bit better. There are two parts to krestas. There's an inward part and an outward part. The inward part expresses itself on the inside as gentleness. For those of you who have your notes, and especially those of you who have the new notes, because there's some old ones going on down there that have 3 of them. And so if you've got 3 of them and your OCD's just like going crazy on you, then just deal with it, all right? If you want to come back to me afterwards, I'll tell you the other 2, and they're pretty cool, but we didn't have time for it. The big one, though, is gentleness. Because a lot of times we view God as being someone who is demanding, someone who's mean, but he's not like that. There's this sense that krestas, kindness on the inside, comes out as compassionate gentleness from a place of strength. And we see this in Hosea 11:4. God says, "I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of love. To them I was like one who lifts a little child to the cheek, and I bent down to feed them." It reminds me of a situation when we were just bringing Brianna home from the hospital after just being born. Isaac was 19 months old. And he's big for his age. He was big for his age at 19 months old and clumsy. And he thought that his new sister, Brianna, was the best thing ever. But he wasn't exactly gentle. And so every time he got close to Brianna, because he would just squish her, man. We have even pictures of that, Every time he got close to Brianna, we would tell him, gentle, gentle, gentle. And it got to be that way so much that he actually believed that that's what her name was. okay? He would get close to her and go, gentle, 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 all the time. And we forget that a lot of times we have this magnificent, powerful, omnipotent God, and he treats us with kid gloves. He's not this demanding, mean God that you think he is. He's holding back all the time to relate to us. And what God is teaching me is what needs to happen on the inside is that I need to open my soul to how God is being compassionate and gentle with me. And instead of letting my mind going to what needs to be fixed or how things could be better, God is awakening my soul to the ways that God is being kind all around me. And there are invitations to that kind of kindness all throughout the day, whether it be rainbows on cool July evenings of all things, to the laughter that happens around the dinner table. 2 or 3 times a week, somebody's ejecting liquid from their nose, we're laughing so hard. And I find myself that when I choose to do that, I find myself smiling more. And as I yield to those invitations of kindness, God is showing me kindness not only from him, but through people too. Like one time, Isaac, he asked to go ride his bike on a Sunday afternoon. I was like, sure, no problem. Just make sure you're back in 10 minutes. He came back. He took his own money, rode all the way out to the gas station, bought an iTunes gift card, and gave it to me for Father's Day. And God was just showing me kindness again. And I'm feeling it different now. Here's what I'm learning about kindness. That internal compassion and gentleness gets expressed on the outside. We need to let God be kind to us. Let God be kind to you. And let God's kindness be shown around you because it's happening all the time. And then as you join God in his kindness to others, for those of you in your notes, it will overflow to helpfulness on the outside. Because being kind is helping out. Did you know that in the first century, the word Christos was also a very common slave name? It would be like calling someone the help. Because that's what kindness is. Kindness is helping. Kindness is helping out. And God was showing me all of these ways that God was using other people in my life to me, but he also showed me other ways of examples of how God is extending his kindness through other people. A couple of weeks ago, Linda Barnett and Greg Barnett asked me to do a funeral, and we came together to officiate the funeral and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to find out, and who this person was, Hilda. And so I asked her, how do you know Hilda? How's she related? And she's like, oh, she's, we're not family. We're not related. And I'm like, wait, because usually that doesn't happen. Usually family are the ones that do the funeral thing. But she's like, no, we're just neighbors. I'm like, wait, there's got to be a story here. Tell me what happened. As it turns out, 20 years ago, when Linda and Greg Barnett moved into this neighborhood in Paola with her little kids, she began to know the neighbors to just find out who her kids could play with and realize that everybody in the whole neighborhood were elderly people. There was nobody for her kids to play with. And 2 doors down was Hilda, a very private, very eccentric, elderly person. I mean, she had cardboard on the windows. She was kind of a hoarder, always out in the yard, real persnickety type. In fact, one of the neighbor kids behind her, she was so particular about her yard that if the neighbor kids came on her yard, she would shoot them with a BB gun. No joke. That was her neighbor, 2 doors down, right? So as during the summer, she's getting to know the neighbors, right? Everybody knows about Hilda, right? And it comes time for Thanksgiving, and Linda's making all the preparations, and they're going to go travel and meet with family and stuff like that. And Josh, her little boy, notices that Hilda's outside in the yard doing what she always did and asks the question, I notice Hilda is all by herself on Thanksgiving. Do you think she'd like a Thanksgiving meal? And so Linda's like, sure. I'll throw something together. I got it all right here anyway. Here, go take this to her. Don't step on the grass. Takes it to her, right? And that began a 20-year-long relationship with Hilda. Totally transformed it. In the last 7 years of her life, as Hilda's health began to go downhill, they had such a relationship with her kids. Her kids got a surrogate grandmother that they woke Hilda up. They would walk 2 doors down, wake her up in the morning, feed her, dress her, read to her before she went to bed, and then tucked her in. And when it came time for her preparations, for her to go on to be with the Lord, she wasn't thinking about family. She didn't really have any family. She didn't have kids or anything like that, a couple of distant cousins. No, she thought about the Barnetts and asked them to handle the details of the funeral. That's kindness. Kindness works itself out in lots of ways. And the list is there, and it's in that story. It's in the story of the video you heard just a little bit earlier in the service today. It comes out as generosity. Joining God by noticing that he is generous to you and being a channel for him to be generous with others like it. Like it says in Acts 14:17. Yet he has not left himself without testimony. He has shown kindness by giving you rain from heaven and crops in their season. He provides you with plenty of food and fills your hearts with joy. He gives you food. He's generous with that. He gives you joy. He's generous with that. And also it shows not just in generosity, but also in forgiveness. Extending God's forgiveness to those around you because of how he forgives you. Like it says in Ephesians 4:32. See the connection? Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ forgave you. And third, healing. Being a healing force that repairs relationships, families, and neighborhoods, just like God has healed us, like it says in Ephesians 2:4-7. But God, being rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive. That's a healing right there. You're dead, now you're alive. Made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, so that in the coming ages he might show the immeasurable riches of his grace in kindness toward us. That outward expression of Christos, kindness, comes out as generosity, forgiveness, and healing. Does that remind you of anyone? Because it reminds me a lot of Jesus. The reason why people flocked to Jesus was because he was just like his Father. He was generous, he was forgiving, he was healing, he was kind. And just like it says in your notes, especially to those who don't deserve it. Like me. Jesus said in Luke 6:35, but love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to whom? The ungrateful and the evil. Just like me. And this Christos was so predominantly a part of Christ's ministry that it's not surprising to her to learn from Tertullian in the first century how Christos, Christ, became Christos. And how when they talked about believers, instead of calling them Christiani, they called them Christiani. It would be like calling us, instead of calling us Christians, calling us Christians. Because of the Christos. Because we're crazy. Crazy generous, crazy forgiving, crazy healing, crazy kind. Because we know that none of us deserves it anyway. Maybe you've never opened yourself up to God's kindness for you. I want to give you that opportunity right now. And if you're anything like me, you need practice. And this is not just an intellectual position, but it's a humble soul posture of opening yourself up to the kindness of God that's all around you. Because the task of the spiritual life is more really like falling in love than anything else, falling into love with God, falling into love of others. And falling in love is not like this intellectual list that you make of pros and cons. And that's what abiding is about. Falling in love with the divine of the universe, with the sacred. And you begin with the ordinary. So I want to give you some time right now to open yourself up to the kindness of God. So whether you're here at Lenexa, at the Speedway, you guys are going to join us in this exercise. Online, you can do that in the chat over at Lansing. What we're going to do is we're going to take some time for you to open yourself up to the kindness of God and how he expresses that kindness. So we're going to have a time where I'm going to pray, and just as an example of how God has been teaching me to receive his kindness as it relates to generosity. I'm going to pray about generosity, and then I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to do the same with God. You could probably do this better than me. And then we're going to sing a little bit. And then I'm going to pray about God's forgiveness for me. And I'm going to give you time to do that too, in the silence right now. And then we're going to sing about it. And then I'm going to pray about God's healing for me. And then it's going to be your turn. And you're going to be able to experience and just center yourself on God's healing for you. And then we're going to sing about it. So, let's pray. God, you are so kind. You're so gentle with us, compassionate, treating us with kid gloves because you know we couldn't handle anymore. And God, as we go through this exercise, open our hearts to your kindness, how you love us and how you extend that kindness through others toward us. And as it relates to generosity, that first expression of kindness, that first expression of helpfulness. When I think of just being conscious, being alive, being on this ball that's going around the sun in this perfect Goldilocks orbit, it's just right. How you have been generous to me. You give me life. You give me this opportunity to even be here. And then on top of that, you give me a family, a wife that actually likes me, kids that want to be around me, Brianna, Isaac, Maria, all of them. And when I stop and think about how you provided for me, times have been rough sometimes, but we've never gone hungry, and we've always had a place to stay. You, God, you are kind. Now it's your turn. How has God been generous to you?
Thank you for finding me. Thank you for finding me. Thank
Father, when I think of how not only are you generous with us, how you forgive us, how you forgive me, I just think of Jesus on the cross, all those people mocking him, hurting him, and him looking down and saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We don't know what we're doing most of the time. And you're kind to us anyway. You give me second chances for the same dumb things over and over and over. And then you extend your kindness through forgiveness from other people toward me. How they forgive me too comes from you. You are kind. Now it's your turn. How has God forgiven you?
Thank you for healing me. Thank you for healing me. Thank you for healing me. Thank you for healing me.
You have not only been generous, not only been full of forgiveness in your kindness to me, but you have healed me. You've healed my soul, just awakening my soul to the ways that you're kind all around me. And even when I sleep, you're just healing me in little microscopic ways every night, physically, but then in relationships around me, healing marriages, healing family relationships, friendships, neighborhoods, even the city. You're healing all of it. You are kind. Now it's your turn. How has God healed you?
For saving me. Thank you 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 for loving me. Thank you for loving me.
As God has been teaching me, and I've been filling myself with kindness, I find that my heart, instead of pushing on it, trying to make it bigger than it was, ends up doing something like this. I find that my heart is bigger than it used to be. My heart is bouncier than it used to be. When life happens and pressure comes in, where I snap back is in a different place. When I'm filling myself with his kindness, his Christos given to me. When you fill yourself with that, resting in that, yielding to that, you can't help but respond. Because when you're filled with God's generosity and his forgiveness and his healing to you, the Spirit will bring times, places, and faces to mind. And then you just obey. Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You know that word easy? Guess which word it is? Christos. It's kind. Because when you realize how much he's done and how kind and gentle and compassionate he is to me, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter. Even if baptism next week, baptism's a little different. You don't see that in culture anywhere else. But if Jesus wants me to do it after everything he's done for me, I'll be crazy. I'll get wet. Whatever. May this week be filled with wonder of how God is compassionately, gently kind with you. And as those opportunities appear, may you respond in generosity, forgiveness, and healing. Thanks for this moment.